Hello there, all you awesome, spiffy, cool people. How are you tonight? Well, tonight the clouds are moving across the sky at a pretty high rate. The moon tonight is nearly full. It is waning. I guess a better way of putting that is the moon was full, now it's waning. We are experimenting with a new microphone tonight. It's got a wind guard on it, so we'll see how well that holds up, how nice the sound quality is. I hope it's really good, because I'm really enjoying producing these videos. At the time of this recording, they haven't caught on yet. Hardly anybody's listening to them. I mean, at this point, one of the videos I've posted so far, the only person who's listened to them has been me. But I'm enjoying making these, so hopefully this will take off with you guys. Hopefully people who can actually benefit from these will find them and enjoy them. And as a side effect, maybe they'll start being more profitable to me. They're already profitable to me in terms of an enjoyment sense. But it would be nice if these videos started producing an income for me. It would be a nice portable income. I could produce these videos while I'm traveling the world, which is one of the things that I want to do more than anything else. Once again, at the time of this recording, I've mentioned this the last few videos now, but we're in the Halloween season. The neighborhood is slowly being decorated. There are houses that have their jack-o'-lanterns out that didn't have them before. The clowns are still in the news. People dressing up as clowns and sneaking up on people. Although the latest news stories I've seen on the subject have said that the clowns have actually been attacking people. That's no good. Why the hell people would enjoy doing that, I don't know. You must have really low self-esteem to put on a disguise and go out and do horrible things to people for fun. That is a sad person. Well, I was hoping to post a Halloween special this year. I don't know if that'll happen or not. I thought that it would be an enjoyable thing to post. I'm not really certain what I was going to do for a Halloween special. I suppose the easy route would be just to record myself reading off a bunch of stories, a bunch of Halloween stories. Maybe describing a few of the more Halloweenish experiences I've had. I've got a video that I actually am producing, and the intention was to release it for Halloween, but it's not even going to be close to being done in time. Because it's not going to be my typical video. What it is I've been hearing lately from different sources. Who knows if this is actually true, but I've been hearing this from different sources. That if you track back the history of Halloween far enough, that Halloween is actually a memorial to the sinking of Atlantis. Once again, absolutely no idea if this is true. But I was thinking it would be really neat to do a video discussing everything that I know about Atlantis. I've even been contacting people that I've been asking them for permission to cite as sources on the video. And I'm going to make the video. I worked on the transcript to it just last night. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight because I got pretty heavy into editing the next video I'm going to post. But the Atlantis video is going to be done, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finished product. A moth just now flew up and almost hit me in the forehead. Cue the animal totem discussion. That hasn't become like a mainstay on my videos or anything now, has it? Seems like every video I've been doing I discuss animal totems. So why not? I don't believe I've discussed moth yet, have I? Moth is an interesting animal totem, and moth has been showing up for me all day today. There's one that kept flying around my head while I was working on my computer, and one flew by me on my way out the door. And now I just now had one almost hit me in the forehead, so moth spirit is trying to tell me something. Thing about moth spirit, though, is the color of the moths have to kind of be taken into account. An interaction with moth spirit almost always means that you are somehow close to being in contact with the spirit realm. But if you've got a black moth, then that means that there are spirits of the dead nearby. And I had a white moth approach me the other day, and I need to find out what that means. But the fairy kingdom is almost always associated with moths whenever they show up. And these moths that have been approaching me today, they've all been brown moths. I guess one thing I can discuss is how do you know when an animal totem is attempting to contact you? And I've discussed this in some of my other videos, but it wouldn't hurt to go over it again. Basically, the way you can approach the whole animal spirit contact thing. Oh, by the way, alien greys. Alien greys are somehow connected with moth spirit. That and praying mantis. But as I was saying, the whole contact with animal totems thing can be looked at from this point of view. If something happens once, an animal shows up in your life in a strange fashion that calls your attention to them, well, if it happens once, it's just an interesting occurrence. If it happens twice, it's a coincidence. If it happens 3 or more times, then someone's trying to contact you and you should be looking into it. But that's just to get you started. That's if you're new to dealing with spirit animals and animal totems, that's the way you approach it until you get more used to the phenomenon. Because what happens after you work with this for a while is you start to know in your heart whether that animal approaching you is a form of communication. Once you're at the point where you know in your heart whether they're communicating with you, then the number of times that they're approaching you, it becomes less important. It gets to the point where an animal can approach you for the first time and you'll know whether or not it's communication. But you have to build up that trust. Yeah, you have to get to the point where you know. I suddenly got hit with the smell of stagnant water. Actually, my initial thought was the smell of wet dog, and I just now heard a horse whinny off in the distance. This whole thing is getting very weird very fast. I'm so quiet right now because I'm looking around for more animal totem signs. I just got hit with several strange communications just right there all together. That's how you can tell in the beginning whether an animal spirit is talking to you. Do they approach you in a weird and unusual way that gets your attention? And that's one of the things, too, is it's got to be a weird and unusual way. You know, if you're walking down the street and some dog starts barking at you from their yard, that's not weird or unusual, especially if that dog is always there in his yard barking at you. That's just a dog barking. But if a dog comes wandering out into the middle of the street, sits down right in front of you and stares you in the eye, that is an unusual occurrence. So you look for those unusual occurrences, things that are not the norm. They do it once? Well, that's interesting. They do it twice? Coincidence. They do it 3 times? There's communication happening. And that animal spirit, that animal oversoul, is trying to convey a message to you. And as you build up trust in your own discernment, then you get to the point where an animal can approach you just one time and you know whether it's communication or not. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I believe it's worth repeating. But as far as an animal approaching you goes, it doesn't even have to be the physical animal themselves. You know, an animal spirit can approach you through a photograph of themselves. If you're going through your daily life and everywhere you look there's a picture of a wolf or an elephant, or even my discussion here on this video, my mentioning moths and wolves and elephants and platypi and whatever else, that constitutes as an approach. It doesn't have to be the physical animal itself. You know, I've mentioned in the past that there is a shaman who I will not name. I doubt that she cares if she's mentioned, but just for the sake of privacy, I am not going to mention her name. But there is a shaman that I will contact through the internet to help me out with things. And she has mentioned that dinosaurs are animal totems too. You can actually be approached by the Triceratops or the Tyrannosaurus Rex animal spirit. Now, obviously, today they're not going to approach you physically and demand your attention. But if you're going through your life and everywhere you look there are pictures and the word Dimetrodon everywhere, well, then maybe you should be looking into what Dimetrodon might mean and what they might be trying to tell you. But I always found that interesting, that dinosaurs have animal totems too. But you know, she also teaches that beings such as dragons and unicorns have animal totems too. But with that, you're kind of getting into the metaphysics of the whole thing. You're getting into the details of how things work. You need to have a deeper understanding of how the mental plane of existence operates in order to understand how and why a lot of this stuff works. But without going into a deep and drawn-out explanation of how the mental plane works and everything, then, well, we can just say that any creature, whether real, imagined, living, dead, physical, part of the fairy kingdom, whatever, every creature, every type of creature has an animal totem. And I guess we could delve a little bit into the mental sphere. The mental sphere is an interesting subject. You know, you've got the physical sphere, the astral sphere, and then you've got the mental sphere. And then above the mental sphere, you've got the Akasha. The Akasha is also sometimes called the Aether, or it can be called God. Any of those can be accurate explanations for the Akashic sphere. But we're not going to go that far up right now. There is a gentleman up ahead, walking on the other side of the street. Or a person, rather. I can't tell who they are. It's difficult to see the person ahead of me because it is dark enough out here. I think they've taken a side road and went to my right, but I'm not certain. Yeah, I'm pretty certain they have. We're close enough now that if he was still walking this way on the street, I'd see him. So anyway, the physical plane, the astral plane, the mental plane, and the Akashic plane. The physical plane I don't really need to explain to you, because if you're listening to this, then you are in it. The person's still up there. But yeah, you're in the physical plane right now. You're living it. You want to know about the physical plane, just look around you. See what's there. Hello there, how are you tonight? Pardon me, I'm afraid I didn't hear you. No, I'm out for a walk. It's me, I'm recording stuff to post on the web. So, you have a good one. So where were we? Well, yeah, we were beginning to discuss the physical plane, the astral plane, the mental plane, and the Akashic plane. You can also call them spheres instead of planes. But we're in the physical plane right now. If you want to understand the physical plane, just look around you, and here it is, the physical plane, physical reality. It's a very interesting plane of existence, but it's also one that you're well aware of. If you're listening to this, you're in it right now. So let's take a step into the astral plane for a second. The astral plane can also be called the afterlife, the spirit realm. There are some people who say that the astral plane is lower than the physical plane. There are people that say the astral plane is higher than the physical plane. Me personally, when a person says either one of those things, I become very suspect of their information. I consider upper and lower to be materialistic concepts. I consider those to be ideas that only people trapped in the physical plane would think of. But the astral plane, it's the spirit realm, it's the fairy realm. And the thing about both the astral and the mental planes is that they are actively created by the creatures living inside of it. And I'll get into that more with the mental plane. But, heaven, hell, those are in the astral plane. The water realm of the undines, that's in the astral plane. The fiery realm of the salamanders, astral plane. The airy realm of the sylphs. The earthy realm of the gnomes, all of its astral plane. The interesting thing about the astral plane is that it feels like the physical plane while you are in it. If you're in the physical plane, you see someone in the astral plane, well, they're going to look all wispy and ghost-like to you. Because that's basically what they are. That's pretty much what a ghost is it's just someone on the astral. Now, of course, you can get into more detailed descriptions than that. A lot of people are out tonight. But yeah, you can get into more detailed descriptions than that, but that's basically what a ghost is. It's just someone on the astral plane. Then you hop up into the mental plane. That's where things get crazy. Because every thought you have creates something that appears to be physical while you're in the mental. That's the reason why it is so important that people learn how to control their thoughts. Everything that you're thinking right now is creating something on that sphere. How are you tonight? Getting along. Oh, it's a gorgeous night out. Got to get out while it's still like this. I hope not, but I agree with you. So, okay, well, I wish you the best. Have a very good one. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, we were just getting into the mental sphere. And keep in mind, I'm kind of describing this stuff to you in reverse. I should be starting at the Akashic sphere and working my way down. But since anyone listening to this, it's the physical realm that we're all aware of, well, that was my starting point for tonight. But yeah, in the mental sphere, thoughts are real. Thoughts are physical. One interesting way to look at it is right now, simply because Star Wars is such a popular movie, and so many people are familiar with Darth Vader, right now there is a real live Darth Vader wandering around the mental sphere. Just because enough people think about it often enough. Kind of a scary thought. It's the reason why we need to learn how to control our own thoughts that much more. But then you bump up above the mental sphere, and now you're in the Akashic plane. Once again, some people call the Akashic plane the Aether. Some people call it God. All of these are words for the same thing, really. The main thing you need to understand about the Akashic sphere is that it is something our physical brains are not capable of understanding. There is nothing physical about it. There is nothing, no set of rules that we can grasp onto and say, okay, this is what it is. We can't do that with it. It is unknowable to us. The reason why I said I was describing this in reverse is because basically what happens when something comes into existence is it starts out in the Akasha. It filters into the mental, becomes a thought, which is a little more solid than the Akasha. After it's solidified itself in the mental sphere, it moves down into the astral sphere, where once again it becomes more solid, until finally it manifests here in the physical. And you have Genesis, you have the creation of all. In a way, this is a very scary concept because once again, once this occurs to you, and I'm not just talking about some guy on the internet rambling off a bunch of esoteric stuff that you may or may not care about. Feel free to call me a nutcase if you wish. But once you have an experience where you realize this, now you have to take responsibility for everything about who and what you are. Your thoughts are creating something real out there on the mental. And that real thing that you have created just with a simple slip of the mind will now filter down and eventually become real in the physical, once it's gained enough energy. This means that in a very physical sense, your surroundings are your fault. You're the one who created the thought that then filtered down. And once again, up, down, those are not the proper words to be using. Up and down, that's something that only somebody trapped in the physical would think of. And here we are by the graveyard again. I don't think I'm going to wander through there tonight. I'm just not in the mood. It's actually a much darker night than it was the other night when I wandered through. Well, not only is it much darker, but the graveyard itself is lit up much more. It's one of those graveyards that has all the solar-powered lights placed out among the graves. And for some reason the other night, those lights just weren't on. Well, anyway, I hope that my discussion of the different planes of existence weren't too woo-woo for you. Even if you do think it all sounded nutty, well, I hope that you at least enjoyed listening to me ramble about it. One thing I do want to point out is that my personal experiences, to my knowledge, have not really delved into the mental sphere that much. My knowledge over the mental sphere at this point is based on book learning and belief. It seems to be an authentic belief, at least from my perspective, but it is belief, and I don't like dealing with belief. I prefer dealing with personal experience. Why do you say this? Why do you believe that? Well, I don't believe it. I actually experienced it, so it's not a belief. Well, unfortunately, right now, when we're dealing with my knowledge of the mental sphere and most of the astral sphere, we're dealing with beliefs at this point in my development. I have had some experiences that have touched base on the astral. You know, occasionally I see things in the astral. I've had a few brushes with it. The mental sphere, I've seen a few bits of evidence suggesting that what I've conveyed to you is the truth. With the mental sphere, it is belief for me at the time of this recording. Hopefully that will change soon. Right now I am kind of glancing over there at the graveyard to see if I can see anything wander around. Thing is, though, it's my understanding that most of what you find in a graveyard will be more like recordings. You won't actually find many spirits in a graveyard. What you will find are Akashic or etheric recordings of things those people did in their lives, and so it'll be like on a repeat loop. But what you're seeing isn't even the spirit of the person who experienced it. It's just an Akashic memory. Once again, belief. You can give what I've just said as much or as little credence as you wish. Well, as much as I've enjoyed dealing with theory and belief, that's not really what I prefer to focus on. I prefer to focus on things that I have done, seen, experienced myself. So I'm going to try and shift gears here. Still going to be woo-woo for a lot of people, but at least it will be woo-woo stuff that I can back up by saying I was actually there and done that. And some of the astral stuff I have actually done. I've seen a few things, I've had a few experiences. I am not yet at the point where I can simply just pop up out of my body and go exploring, although I'm working on that. You have to overcome a lot of fear before you can do that stuff. But it's also kind of a revolving door. You know, you have to overcome fear before you can get to the point where you can do it. But every time you do it, you come back with less fear because you have seen more. Once again, the astral realm, that's what we call the spirit realm. And like what I was discussing before, you know, the spirit realm is largely created by the thoughts and beliefs of the living things within it. That's why all these different regions of the spirit realm exist. It's because enough people believe it that it kind of stains that idea into the mental sphere. It drifts down into the astral sphere, and as long as you're on the astral plane, it becomes a real place. For the most part, though, I haven't even attempted to see heaven or hell. I'm just not interested in either of those. The place I want to see the most is the watery realm, the undines, also known as mermaids. And I've discussed this on one of my previous recordings. I also want to see a lot of the fairy kingdoms. The fairy kingdoms fascinate me. But for all my talk about the astral and the mental and the Akashic, I'm also pretty fascinated with the physical too. I am in no hurry whatsoever to leave this realm permanently. I just felt a strange, cool breeze. Well, it wasn't a breeze, because a breeze has energy to it. I just felt a cool flow of some kind from out of this open spot in the trees. One of my few experiences that I've had regarding the mental, well, this is both a mental and astral sphere thing. I've dealt with a succubus before. It was a short experience, not a big deal. I was just laying in bed one night, and this woman appeared sitting on my chest. Physically, she was a beautiful woman. Brunette with dark curly hair, perfect bone structure and muscle tone. She was nude, by the way. She was sitting on my chest, nude. But there was something in her eyes that scared me. There was something in her eyes that, no, whatever it was this woman was here for, I was not going to give it to her. And so I evoked the name of Jesus and drove her away. In the name of Jesus, get out of here. And she left. She just vanished. But yeah, there was something so dark and scary about her eyes. She was beautiful, though, and that's what made it even more frightening. Oh, hey, dogs. How are you doing, buddies? I guess I'm too close to their land. But yeah, that was my brief experience with the succubus. Not a great story. It doesn't have like a build-up or a crescendo or anything like that. It was just, I was laying in bed. This woman appears on my chest. Gorgeous and sexual, but terrifying. Something dark and evil in her eyes. And so I banished her and she left. It's an astral realm experience because she was clearly a succubus. And the thing is, at the time this happened, I didn't even know what a succubus was. I did not yet know about the mythologies of these different entities to realize Well, there was even a history of the succubus and the incubus. I didn't realize that other people had this experience too. I just knew that as beautiful as she was evil, and I did not want anything to do with her. So I evoked the name of Jesus and told her to leave, ordered her to leave. But it was a mental sphere experience too, because there had to be something in my thoughts that lured her to me. I don't see how it could possibly be a coincidence that I had that experience. Could be a coincidence. Could be something that happens to everybody all the time, but nobody speaks about it. I don't know. But I'm pretty certain there had to be something happening on the mental sphere that lured this astral entity to me. But I banished her out and haven't seen her since, and I'm not certain how old I was when this happened, but it was a long time ago. I'd pretty much forgotten about that experience. I suppose it's one of those things where you don't think that you have this many experiences, but then you start thinking about it, you start talking about it, and things in your memory start clicking. And you're like, oh shit, that happened to me once. This other thing happened to me too. Oh crap, I've had all kinds of interactions with the astral realm. For me, though, that incident would not have carried anywhere near the weight with me that it did if I had have known about the legend before the experience. Because then I could have just said to myself, well, it's something that dredged up from my subconscious and I imagined it. But I had the experience, and then later on I found out about the legends. For me, that's very profound, because it means that whatever it wasn't just in my head. Other people have experienced the exact same thing. Another experience I've had, one that's far more pleasant, one that I hope to not only repeat, but to actually delve into a little deeper, is one time in my mind's eye. This wasn't a physical presence, this was something in my mind's eye. I saw the face of a mermaid, the face of an undine. And it flashed in my mind's eye just ever so briefly, just image, boom, gone. Image of probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. What was interesting about her face, I mean, aside from the fact that she was fucking gorgeous, was that her eyes looked like moons. You know, the iris and the pupil, they looked like full moons. And they were silvery white and they glowed. And I knew I was looking at the face of an undine. I knew that this was the face of a mermaid. It might have been the face of Isafel. That's who I attributed it to when I saw her, was this is the face of Isafel. And I don't think I've discussed Isafel on these recordings before. There's another mermaid named Istaful that I have discussed, but I don't think I've discussed Isafel. I don't know if this was the face of Isafel or not. But I do know I instinctively felt that this was a mermaid, and I know that Isafel has a lot of moon energy to her. Very lunar. That is something that I want to follow up on when I am more well developed in my skills. Like I've said, though, the mermaid queens are dangerous. It's not because they wish you any ill will. They actually don't. Their minds don't work that way. They cannot even fathom the concept of harming someone on purpose. No, the problem with the undines is that they are so beautiful, they are so magnetic, that a human male who has not yet mastered his emotions, has not yet learned how to control when and where he falls in love, if you're not properly trained, you'll see an undine and you'll fall so far in love with her that you'll leap out of your body and try to spend eternity with her on the astral realm while your body here in the physical plane dies. As I mentioned in another video, that is the true origin of the siren myth. I suspect that there probably are siren-like creatures out there. Once again, once you understand how the mental, astral, and physical planes work, pretty much anything that enough people believe in actually exists out there somewhere. It doesn't even need to be a bunch of people. It can be one person with focused intention. That's the reason why it's so important that a person who practices real magic be a good person. It is so important that you master your thoughts and that you only create mental constructs that you intend to create. Everybody's creating these mental constructs all the time. A lot of people who believe they're being plagued by something outside of them, well, they're constructs that they created on the mental sphere with their own thoughts and has come down to vampire them. Because the thing about the mental sphere is that thoughts are alive. And once something becomes alive, it wants to continue being alive. What is the easiest way for a thought to stay alive? Well, it's to get people to keep thinking about it. Once you've created a thought that has come to life, and it wishes to continue living, it will act to keep you thinking about it. And at that point, it becomes a psychic vampire. It becomes an energy vampire. It is living off the mental energy that you are feeding into it. And some of this stuff can be pretty scary, especially when you think through the full implications of everything I'm discussing here. But there's no real point in being afraid of it, because you're going to do it whether you're afraid of it or not. You are going to have thoughts, and those thoughts are going to create manifestations of those thoughts. So it's not worth it to be afraid of it. It's far more worth it to simply learn how to deal with it. Learn how to be in charge of your own ideas. Learn how to meditate. Learn how to sit down and control what thoughts emerge within your own mind. Being afraid of this stuff is a waste of time because it's going to be there and you're going to do it whether you're afraid of it or not. And you can't even banish it away in the name of God because it's the way the universe works. Basically, the only way to avoid creating mental constructs is to obliterate your own existence. And what good is that going to do you or anyone else? I do hope to build the emotional maturity necessary to be able to safely interact with undines, though. I've just always been drawn to them. Not sure why. Maybe it's all shallow. Maybe it's just that they're hot and so I'm interested. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe there's also something deeper there. There is also astral immortality to take into account. I don't think I'm going to discuss astral immortality, though. I've discussed enough really weird subjects for tonight, so I think I'm going to save the subject of astral immortality for another time. Actually, I would rather save a discussion of astral immortality until a time when I have achieved astral immortality. Once again, I'd rather that it be a personal experience rather than just theory. Yeah, I'd like to finish off this recording with a more grounded discussion of some kind. Not certain what I want to finish it off with talking about, but I do kind of want to get into something more, something that's not quite so much of a stretch for someone to take me seriously on. Yeah, that's the problem with all of this metaphysical stuff. We are such a materialistic world. We are such a materialistic society that any discussion of this will label you as a fraud or a kook or something, someone to be dismissed. But once you've had these experiences, you can't go back. Good evening. And they don't even have to be major experiences. It doesn't have to be a near-death experience. It doesn't have to be a sojourn into the astral plane of existence. You know, like I mentioned, oftentimes you've had a lot of metaphysical experiences that you've just ignored or forgotten about. I think that's the challenge I'm going to put forth to you tonight. Let's change the word challenge to something else. I don't like using the term challenge. Let's just say, let's have a little bit of fun. Look into your own life and check for any really weird experiences that you've forgotten about. If you have a journal, crack that journal open and read it. I'll bet that you've had a lot of metaphysical experiences of your own. Yeah, just look through there, see what you can find. If you don't mind the internet knowing about it, maybe post it under the video. I'd love to read about some of the things that have happened to you guys. Just please be honest about it. I'm not interested in hearing someone's troll chow. Yeah, I'll bet let whoever you are who's listening to this, I'll bet that you have had an experience with a ghost or a fairy or an elemental. Well, I certainly didn't stay within the realm of being grounded for very long, did I? I went straight from saying, let's be more grounded, let's finish this off on something a little bit more physical, and then I turn right around and go straight into, so what have you guys' experiences been? What ghosts have you seen? Of course, here I am in my front yard, walking up to the house. I think I might sit down on the porch swing for a little while. Continue talking just a little while longer. It is a beautiful night, and who knows how many more of these we will have this year. You know, as the person that was talking to me earlier when I was way out was saying, that person is of the opinion that we're probably going to have a very harsh winter this year, and I don't like the sound of that. I am not a winter person. I do not like cold weather. But I think this person's probably right. So I've had a couple of people, completely different subject here. I've had a couple of different people mention to me some places that I could go to learn to ballroom dance. I mentioned this on another recording here a while back, that I'd like to learn how to ballroom dance. Problem is, nobody's mentioned anything in the actual town where I live. And to be really petty, I'll just say I don't like spending money on gasoline. I don't want to have to drive to the neighboring town in order to do this. Perfectly happy to spend money on the lessons, I just don't want to spend money on the gas to get there. I'd rather let it be here in town. The local community college used to have a dance troupe. I don't know if they still do. Maybe they have ballroom lessons. I have never been a good dancer, but I would love to learn how. Also be a good way to get back in shape. Have a partner that I can dance with. Of course, having a dance partner would require me to meet a bunch of new people, which is itself a good thing. It's always good to meet new people, but it's something I would not have a choice on. I would have to get out and somehow meet people who know how to ballroom dance, because all the people I already know who can ballroom dance have moved away. And I should have moved away a long time ago. I have moved away. I've moved away several times, and I've always moved back. I like to refer to this town as being a bungee cord. You know, you can run away for a while and then it drags you right back in. It's the bungee cord effect. So what else can we discuss? I'm pretty much just out here looking at the semi-full moon. It's too cloudy to look at the stars. The clouds just sort of open up enough for the moon to shine through, and that's it. I do look forward to people posting what some of their forgotten spiritual experiences could be. Some of their supernatural experiences. I don't like the term supernatural. Supernatural suggests that it's not natural, and I don't believe that at all. It's natural. It's just an aspect of nature that we don't yet understand. There is no supernatural. It's all natural. I especially look forward to it if anyone has any memories of fairies, of the Fae folk. Feel free to tell me all about that. Of course, once again, at the time of this recording, I do not have very many YouTube followers yet. Hopefully that will change soon. But once this thing's posted, it might take a while for me to have enough followers for anyone to even hear the video, let alone respond to it. But I hope and I pray that the right people hear this recording and that you respond to it. I love you all. I wish you a good night.